Hi, everybody. Sunday night. I'm meteorologist Joe Cioffi, and it is coming up on 9 o'clock Eastern Time on this July 15th. Half the month of July is over. It's just kind of flying by. By the way, I have adjusted my audio. I'm hoping it's okay. I know I do tend to talk loud sometimes, so that oftentimes sets the audio off a little bit. So I'm going to try to keep my voice under control. It was an interesting day here. We had some thunderstorms last night that moved over. I just missed out on them. We really could use the rain here where I am in central Suffolk County. They were very strong in Nassau County, western Long Island, back to about New York City. So there was some decent rains, and some people reported that the storms actually caused some problems overnight and early this morning, but those, of course, are long gone, and we spent the day kind of in repair mode, getting the clouds out of the way, which took a little while. It was a warm day. It was definitely a much more humid day. And as we look at the weather across the country, I'm struck by the fact that uh, over a period of time where we've kind of gotten used to seeing extremes showing up in one place or another. We seem to be in kind of an unusual spot right now. The vast majority of the United States is experiencing uh, what I think is just typical mid-July weather. There are a few pockets where temperatures are a bit on, let's call it, on the extreme side, but the vast majority of the U.S. is just kind of sitting in mid-July weather, trying to figure out what comes next, and I don't really see anything too unusual going ahead, although the pattern is going to adjust with this trough that's going to be in the eastern part of the United States. So big hello to everybody. Dio Nan Kumar, you didn't miss it. I just started. um, and Weather Hub TV, Delvin is on. Um, let's see. Delvin's right now, it's pitch black 1 month after the June solstice. Early sunsets is bad. Well, they happen every year, so I guess every year, and that just gets bad as we go through the month. We're really going to start to notice the change in the earlier sunsets a month from now for sure, and pretty before you know it, the summer will be over with. So let's just enjoy what we got and take it from there, folks. Okay, so let's not get too worked up. Mirtha Gunter, Anthony Orr. We still, by the way, have Subtropical Storm Beryl, and we are probably going to see that disappear. It's out in the ocean, and we'll take a look at that in just a second. So why don't we start off with what's going on right now? I think that's a good way to take a look at this. And as always, uh, if you're watching this on a replay overnight, please just remember that this is all dated stuff. So we're as of 9 p.m. Eastern Time Sunday night. So if your particular area is experiencing severe weather, please be sure to check your local National Weather Service office at weather.gov. 9 p.m. temperatures aren't too bad, really. You can see most of the Northeast generally in the 70s and low 80s, except it is a little bit on the cool side in the 60s up to a good chunk of Maine and northern New Hampshire, and even a few pockets in northern Vermont. I've overlaid the real-time radar, at least as of 9 o'clock Eastern Time, so you can see where there's any shower and thunderstorm activity going on. We've got a few pockets of showers in parts of Pennsylvania, eastern Ohio. A fairly large area from where it seems to rain all the time now. Johnny Quest on board in the Blue Ridge Mountains knows this all too well. Getting another 2 to 3 inches of rain today and more to come, because you can see it on the radar here across northern Virginia, mainly south of Washington, D.C., and then extending westward into parts of West Virginia. We move down to the south, where we do have some pockets of showers and thunderstorms across the Gulf states, which is what you would expect this time of year, of course. Florida getting what seems to be a break today from some of the thunderstorm activity. We've been seeing a fair amount develop in the western part of the state over the last few days. That seems to have diminished some, although you still see a few pockets of showers and storms there. On up, as we look up through across the south, you've got your typical 80s and 90s for the temperatures this evening. On through the upper Midwest, we're looking at readings that are generally in the 80s, not too much in the way of shower and thunderstorm activity occurring here. And the main action seems to be across parts of Kansas tonight with some showers and storms. And we also have the continuation of the monsoon showers and storms in parts of the Southwest and in the Southern Rockies, with various flash flood watches up at the moment, and likely to see some warnings. And you can see there's a fair amount of thunderstorm activity going on in parts of Colorado. Also some rather cool temperatures. I'm not exactly sure where these locations are, but I imagine these are all elevated areas where you've got 60s, 50s, and there's a 46 that's showing up here, a 45 and a 41. So fairly cool. Southwest doing its usual thing with temperatures up above 100 degrees in the spots where you would normally expect it to happen, like at Phoenix and Las Vegas, and inland areas of the West Coast, right along the coast of California, temperatures in the 60s. The hot weather has pushed up into the Northwest, where we do have some areas with temperatures up in the middle to upper 90s, and they're approaching 6 o'clock in the evening. We even have a couple of spots at 100 or higher, and temperatures even reaching up into the low 90s up toward Seattle. So the hot weather, at least from the standpoint of being hotter than normal, is occurring up on the West Coast, and it's kind of migrated up toward the Northwest. Here's the satellite loop tonight, and there is Beryl on the far right, that swirl that is out there. It's subtropical storm. It's very small, and it looks like it's kind of inching its way off toward the northeast, and gradually it'll just become a remnant low. You can see the cloud cover that's covering parts of Delaware down through Maryland, and of course the bright white cloud tops indicative of those showers and storms that are occurring across parts of West Virginia and Virginia. We don't have a whole lot happening in the tropics with respect to systems that we're looking at. We continue to see, I'll bring up another satellite here. Let's see if they're working okay. We'll go to nhc.noaa.gov, and you can always go to satellite imagery here on your own, and you can pull up various loops for different sectors. We've got the tropical Atlantic up right now, and we still have this the upper low. If you remember, we were watching an upper low migrating across the Atlantic. That seems to have now weakened somewhat as it moves over into the Northeast Caribbean and just north of Puerto Rico. It looks like that upper low's weakened. We've got another strong upper low that was off the coast of Africa. You see that big swirl out there in the Atlantic. So that continues to create wind shear conditions in the tropical Atlantic. At some point, that is probably going to diminish. We pointed out yesterday that the African dust looked like it wasn't as extensive as it has been. That it appears to have diminished over a large area. By the way, we've seen a lot of it in the Caribbean lately and in the Western Gulf, and there's been a total lack of activity also on the Pacific side, and I'm just wondering whether that could be a result of the African dust getting involved as it moves westward. There seems to be some coming off the African coast now, so we'll have to watch to see what that does. But the main driver is that big upper low that's out in the Atlantic. So as long as that is in there, and you can see the circulation of that goes all the way down south of 10 degrees north. So any tropical wave that is moving along that gets involved with that upper low will see its thunderstorms sheared apart. Look for this to kind of hold on for a little while longer. I'm thinking that as we get toward the end of the month, you'll probably start to see conditions getting a bit more conducive for tropical storm development. We'll see how that goes. Now, with respect to the overall pattern, when we head out into the longer term, we are waiting for the next trough to come into the east, and this is for Tuesday. That's going to bring a cold front into the eastern part of the United States, and there should be some widespread thunderstorm activity with this, and it should produce a rather large area of 1 to 2 inch rainfalls. The only thing I would caution here is the fact that we've been down this road a few times where models have done this, and when we get to reality, it winds up being far less than advertised. So I'm being a little skeptical and cautious. So I'm just going to wait till later tomorrow to see what the short range guidance has to say about this for Tuesday. The Storm Prediction Center has a small area of marginal risk for severe weather on Tuesday. Not really going hog wild with it, and I don't know that we're going to see that upgraded a bit. I'm going to keep an open mind of skepticism, but the overall long-term pattern remains the same, which would be the tendency for troughs to come and impact the East Coast. And actually, here's one at the end of the week and next weekend where we have this cutoff low that dives down into the Western Great Lakes, and it basically creates a southerly flow along the East Coast. So this could open up an opportunity for some shower and thunderstorm activity next weekend until that trough makes it to the East Coast. And notice as we go through Sunday, it's still hanging back in the Ohio Valley. Now, just as an illustration here, and it's not that since there are no tropical systems, this is the kind of upper air where, at least for the East Coast, you want to be really cautious with. If you wind up having a system that's in the Bahamas, say, there's basically a southerly flow up the East Coast early next week. That would be problematic, but there's no sign that there is going to be any kind of tropical system anywhere. So I just want to illustrate that when you're looking at the upper air in the jet stream, this is one of the ways where you could wind up with something being problematic for the East. But we get troughs in the East all the time. They don't always match up at the same time when there's a tropical system around, thankfully. Otherwise, we'd be getting hurricanes rather frequently. The presence of the trough has to coincide with a tropical system and vice versa. So if you could have, so just because you have one, you can't have one of them. You gotta have two of them for there to be a problem. So the upside to this is that areas that have been rather dry, particularly as you get into upstate New York, where they've got drought conditions in some areas in upstate New York, if this materializes, and I don't see any reason why it wouldn't, there should be some drought relief next weekend in parts of upstate New York, in and around Lake Ontario, where it's very dry in north central New York, for example. And then going into the last 7 or 8 days of July, you still see this tendency for a trough to want to be in the east, although in the long range, the ridge off the Atlantic shows at least an attempt of strengthening a bit, but you still got that westerly flow for the northern mid-Atlantic and the Northeast. So I've been saying all along, does it get hot for a day or so? Sure. Do you get prolonged heat and humidity in a pattern like this? You might get prolonged humidity, but for more than a day or two, but you're not going to get prolonged extreme heat. And at this point, by the way, the last day of the long range is day 16, is now at July 31st. So starting tomorrow, you will see August 1st suddenly pop up at the very end of the long range. So let's go back and take a look at where we're going in my neck of the woods. Anyway, we'll take a look at what we can expect with regards to the next couple of days. And tomorrow is going to be a hot day. No question, temperatures will be up around or over 90, but nothing extreme. Maybe there'll be some scattered thunderstorms around late Monday afternoon into Monday night. But it's Tuesday that this weather front moves on through here. And this is at Tuesday evening. The front looks like it's right on the coast. I think, I mean, this to me, and judging by the short wave that's coming around in the upper flow, you would think that we should be able to squeeze out a couple of inches of rain for a fairly large amount of the geography here. But again, skepticism reigns in my mind. Here's the GFS forecast for rainfall through Tuesday night, 2 a.m. Wednesday morning. And there are pockets of 2+ inches, and it looks like a fairly large area gets at least an inch to an inch and a half. The dryness that many areas are experiencing could certainly use this. So I guess we have fingers crossed that this is going to happen. What you see across the Ohio Valley and across the Gulf states and the Southeast, I mean, this is all typical stuff that you would normally have for rainfall. And I'll bring up the West because of the monsoons that are going on, and you can see the concentration of potentially some heavy rains in parts of Arizona, New Mexico, on up through Colorado, and also pushing back up through the central and northern plains and into the northern Rockies, and even a few pockets of rain in the Northwest and on up through Nevada and Utah. Again, this is all monsoon induced. So once we get through this front on Tuesday, we're going to see another shot. There's a high that's coming down from the Great Lakes, and let me just make sure this is all centered okay for you so you can see the date. Thanks, by the way, to Levi Cowan, tropicaltidbits.com, for letting us use the maps. The front moves right along. Should have lower humidity starting developing on Wednesday and Thursday into maybe even into Friday until the high moves off. And then because of that trough that drops down into the western lakes, you can see the low that's up in northern Wisconsin. You've got some Gulf moisture and Atlantic moisture that starts to move up the eastern seaboard through next weekend, Saturday and Sunday. And then you wait till that trough kind of moves to the eastern part of the United States to get the front through. But notice that southerly flow, that front has a real tough time. So this might mean for several days with chances for showers and thunderstorms next week. Not that it rains straight through, but at least opportunities for it. And the pattern looks a bit more on the wet side as we move through the end of the month. Again, nothing extreme here in terms of temperatures. It'll be very warm and humid, yes, but that once we get through the dry shot of air that we get later this week, but not going to see temperatures well up into the 90s to 100 degrees. That's just not going to happen. So we're just kind of rolling along here as far as the weather is concerned for the next 10 days to 2 weeks. With the perhaps better chances for rain in the longer term once we get through whatever we get through on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, probably Friday look fine, and then next weekend and beyond we start to see increasing chances for showers and storms. Nick Cortez, thank you for hitting super chat, and as I said, no big heat, okay? Just is not going to happen in this pattern, other than the odd day here and the odd day there. Is there severe weather likely on Tuesday in southern New England? Let me see if they updated, if the Storm Prediction Center did any kind of update for Tuesday real fast. I'm not really too keen on the severe weather chances on Tuesday. I'm thinking, to go along with what the Storm Prediction Center has. I mean, they're talking marginal risk from northeastern Pennsylvania, northern New Jersey, the Hudson Valley, northwest Connecticut, western Mass, most of New Hampshire, all of Vermont, and much of northeastern New York. It's a marginal risk. that to me says isolated severe thunderstorms are possible. Uh, I think the main emphasis is probably going to be more rain than anything else. Looking at all that. Poor Johnny Quest, with all the rain you have, my God, doesn't stop. There's a tropical disturbance which has a 70% chance of developing as approach to Hawaii. Weather Hub TV. That is correct. There is That's the one tropical disturbance. It's about 1,300 miles to the east-southeast of Hilo, and it's moving westward, and it's probably going to develop into a tropical storm. You know what? I didn't really bring it up today. Let me see if I can find it. Definitely, we'll take a look at it tomorrow. But let me see if I can quickly find it on the satellite loop. East and Central Pacific. Actually, we do, so I can bring it up. All right, so let's bring it up again. Hang on one second. We'll get the window up here so you can see it. And hang on. Oh boy. Nope, that's not it. There you go. Okay, so there you can see Hawaii's kind of right in the middle of the picture, and the disturbance. There is some curvature there. There's probably some kind of mid-level circulation, and I'm trying to see. It's hard for me to see whether there's a low-level circulation developing here, but wouldn't be surprised. It does have the look that it wants to develop into something. The thunderstorms are not really concentrated yet, but it appears to be getting a little better organized over time. So this is the distance between where it is and Hilo, Hawaii. That's about 1,300 miles, or a little bit less than 1,300 miles. So these tropical systems, when they, Hawaii's always seems to be in a really odd place in my view. It's amazing where they sit out in the tropical Pacific, and yet the storms either go south of them, or if they come in from the west, the water temperatures over Hawaii, the water temperatures around Hawaii are generally around 27 C, uh, low 80s or near 80. Uh, but there's always something going on somewhere in the Pacific to the north that winds up shearing it apart. So I've seen full-blown Category 4 hurricanes, or even almost borderline Category 5 hurricanes that get close to Hawaii, and then by the time they get there, they do tend to fall apart. So there seems to be, a bit of a natural shield that protects those islands from getting hit by severe hurricanes. Although every once in a great while it does happen, but we'll keep an eye on that. Delvin says, I open the window and shut light every afternoon and evening since early May, making most of the late sunset. Be grateful and praise it. That's the best way to approach it. Israel's on tonight. Little supersized. Some of the rain made it as far south as you in Lakewood from 11 to 2 p.m. No thunderstorms. Yeah, that whole area just kind of sank southward. And now, of course, the radars are nice and quiet. You're going to get some thunderstorms there on Tuesday. I honestly, I think rain is going to be the bigger player. I'm thinking, right now, I kind of lean away there'll be maybe some isolated severe thunderstorms, but I'm not seeing, any kind of widespread event. William Hoover, watching radar last night around 12 midnight, thinking of getting good rain. It just disappeared. Exactly. Well, it went over Nassau County anyway. I got a little bit of it here because I noticed when I came out, when I got up this morning, that everything was wet, but nothing crazy. It was already drying out. So I don't think I got much rain here at all. Frequency of hurricanes, Nick, on Long Island. I once did some research and kind of did the math. On average, we get impacted by a storm once every 7 or 8 years. So if you want to use that idea, Sandy was in 12, so we haven't really seen anything of any serious threat here for the last 6 years. I guess one of these years soon probably will. Whether it's this year or not, I don't know. No one knows. I would just say, by the way, um, to me, at least so far, Alberto, Chris, and Beryl seem to be pointing to the idea that this is going to be more of an Atlantic season rather than a Caribbean Gulf of Mexico season. So kind of the opposite of what we had last year. And based on the upper air pattern that I've been seeing so far, with this tendency for troughing to want to be in the east, uh, it would be supportive of that notion. Now, look, that's what we're looking at now. The models suggest that that pattern will probably hold at least through the end of this month and maybe into the beginning of August. Now, whether it holds beyond that or not, that I can't tell you. I don't really think anybody can, but at least for now. And again, with the troughs in the east, it just cannot get hot for any long periods of time. And actually, when you think about it, oftentimes when you see really hot summers, they start building in certain areas to the west, and then gradually extend their reach. When you've got these enormous heat ridges that develop, they extend the ridge extends eventually into the eastern states and holds. We haven't seen that this summer. If you think about what we've been experiencing through the month of June and so far through the month of July, there's been a fair amount of volatility, and we've been getting these cold fronts coming through I guess every 4 days or so. That cuts everything off. The one stretch where that didn't apply was when we had the heat ridge building up at the beginning of this month. But even there, the extreme heat happened early, and then it just kind of leveled off. You really didn't see this expanding area of upper 90s to low 100s across the Ohio Valley, and in the mid-Atlantic states and in the southeast, and just kind of gradually take over. It doesn't seem to be that kind of summer right now, and there's nothing there that says that it's going to change. Delvin, you might have a shot with that. Those thunderstorms on Tuesday are probably going to be stronger for you, perhaps. Depending on the wind direction. I mean, I don't know how much of the marine layer is going to get involved. Your ocean water temperatures there are not that warm. Inland, western half of Massachusetts westward, probably a better chance there. David Schwartz, you got into some of those storms last night. Astoria, Queens, a lot of rain early this morning, pounding on the aluminum porch. The garden got a good watering, which is the most important thing. And let's see. Delvin also talking about wildfires in Massachusetts in March of 2012 and April and May. Tree leaves couldn't bloom in time for the heat of 2012. Yeah, totally different. Okay, Ed Bowers, thanks for letting me know. But I know I continue to try to adjust this volume issue that I have. Let's see if this works. Hopefully that'll improve it. Whenever I start to talk loud, it gets a little scratchy, and all I can really do is just play with it until I get it right. That unfortunately takes some time. But thanks for letting me know. That I'll try to run a test video at some point to see if I can finally get this problem solved once and for all. Okay, so live stream schedule, Delvin, going forward this week. We should be pretty much on normal schedule this week. So we'll have the evening live stream either at 6 Eastern or at 7 Eastern time. I'm thinking tomorrow probably at 6 Eastern. That's tentative because things wind up popping up sometimes that require me to adjust and change that. So we'll just bear that in mind, folks. And let's see, what else do we have? Well, we've got the Joe and Joe Show. We'll be back on tomorrow at Facebook starting at 9:15. So you be sure you take a look at that. And that really is about it. So we'll just continue to move along. And thanks, Delvin. So now you're telling me the audio is a bit low. Okay, so everybody's got who's got it too low, who's got it too high. I'm just going to have to play with it a little bit more. I apologize for that, folks. You know, technical difficulties. I'm not the most tech savvy guy in the world. I'm probably more tech savvy than most people my age, but I'm not nearly as tech savvy as the average 5-year-old that's around. So just be patient with me. Okay. Thanks everybody for being here. Just a reminder. I'm a participant in the affiliate program for Amazon and also for Ebates. It allows those are two ways that my channel can earn some fees from Amazon and Ebates. If you shop on Amazon using the link on the descriptor to this live stream or on the video, if you're watching for the library, you get your stuff at great prices, and Amazon throws me back some coin. And by the way, they've got their big Prime Day starting tomorrow. So if you're on Amazon Prime, they got all kinds of deals starting at 6 o'clock Eastern time. So you can check that out. Okay, thanks, Nick, for hitting Super Chat. Thanks, everybody, for being here. We will see you tomorrow night.